Welcome back, everybody. It's Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. Born on this date in 1916, writer Walker Percy of Birmingham. Today we have some weather-related tragedy. State marijuana laws that won't be changing with a possible federal announcement, and we'll offer up some facts and thoughts about the loud, loud sound of southern summertime. I'm Mike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama. The storms that blew through the state early yesterday knocked out power for some 137,000 Alabama power customers and likely led to one death. According to authorities, a woman in her late 70s in Mountain Brook was killed when a tree fell on her apartment. She was alone at the time, and no other injuries were reported. The woman was pronounced dead on the scene. Now, several thousand remained without power as of this recording, according to the Alabama Power Outage Map. We may soon see the federal government reclassify marijuana, but as Savannah Tryons-Fernandez reports, that would not affect state drug laws. See, the FDA recently recommended that marijuana move from a Schedule I drug to a Schedule III drug. Essentially, that move would reflect the FDA's stated belief that the vast majority of weed users are not doing something that is dangerous to themselves or others. So last month, the DEA proposed to reclassify marijuana to reflect a view of the drug as less dangerous than it's currently treated. Now, there are still a few steps left on the federal level before that happens. If it does, it'll probably give those in the marijuana business some tax advantages, but it doesn't legalize or decriminalize it in Alabama. Now here, possession can be a misdemeanor if law enforcement believes the marijuana is just for you, and a felony if not. Selling it can get you up to 20 years in prison, and selling it to a minor can get you up to 99. Well, if you're someone who's been setting out your colorectal cancer screenings, or you're wondering whether having a colonoscopy is worth the time, here are some numbers that came up in a story that might interest you. AL.com Sarah White's CodaCheck reported on free screenings for low-income and underinsured Jefferson County residents that are being given at UAB through a state grant. UAB says that in the first year of the program, 100 colonoscopies were performed, mostly for low-income minority patients. Half of them resulted in removed polyps from the colon, and 3 of them resulted in the detection and treatment of early-stage cancer. Now, all 3 cancer cases were successfully treated. Now, in a state full of people who'd love a chance to play the lottery, 3% is a relatively sizable portion. So make sure you start getting screened as you get into middle age. The free screenings at UAB for patients of federally qualified health centers will be available through September. Hey, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about that bug that's been so loud in some places over the past few weeks. Some people keep wanting to know, what is that sound? Well, you might have grown up calling them locusts. That's pretty common, especially in the South. I have a friend who said she and her childhood friends called them hot bugs. Now, doesn't that sound like youngins? Now, I'm not going to tell you who told me she thought she was hearing some sort of faraway alarm going off, but in her defense, her degree is in meteorology, not biology. Of course, I'm talking about cicadas, and they sound like the part of the year when it's late enough to be getting pretty hot, but it's still early enough that you're not acclimated to the heat yet. Hot days and comfortable evenings are what cicadas sound like to me. Now, I'm going to share a few facts about the noisy bug. Some of this was also reported by Warren Kulo over on the internet at AL.com. Now, as you've probably heard, the reason they've been particularly loud this year, at least out in the country, is that the great southern brood of cicadas have emerged. That's the brood that shows up in Alabama and other areas every 13 years. And they're the reason the meteorology/not biology unnamed person had some confusion. Of course she recognized the thousands of nearby cicadas. They show up every year with annual broods. It was the billions more in the background. making that deep humming racket that vibrated through the pines and echoed off the ridge that wasn't as recognizable. It's a mating call, by the way. You might think that it's an obnoxious way to try to get some action, but these boogers show up every 13 years and stick around only a few short weeks, so they're not able to slow play this thing. And believe it or not, there's a little cicada sexually transmitted disease that causes their private parts to fall off, so cut them some slack. Plus, it's the males that make that loud buzz, of course. The females click with their wings. Incidentally, there's also a 17-year-old brood emerging in other parts of the U.S. this year, but that brood doesn't have as big an impact in Alabama. The cicadas won't hurt you. They're good for the soil when they dig and aerate, and then they're good for the soil again when they expire and fertilize. They don't eat your vegetation. But about handling them, experts say that they have twice the urination flow of an elephant. Note, that's relative to their size. Otherwise, we'd be constantly using them to play practical jokes. By the way, I have positive associations way back in my brain to these things, and I love to sleep to their sound. So it's with some sadness I say that they've peaked in my neck of the woods. It's much less of a scream now than it was a week ago. What's happening is that they're finishing up their mating, and females are laying eggs in trees. The adults that haven't already fed the owls and chickadees will die off, and then the new ones will hatch out and burrow into the ground. And we won't hear from them until they're brand new teenagers in 2037, Lord willing. Thank y'all so much for listening. We're going to be back here again tomorrow with another report. Until then, y'all come on by and see us anytime you want to on the internet at al.com.